have in a way, we have solved technical problems, but not fully resolved, because now we have the screen here, but we don't have the monitors over there. But let's see how we can adapt. So basically, I'm connected with my computer because I want to show the implementation of these two models. And yeah, necessarily I need my computer. So we were here in this trying to implement these. So this is the first model, all right. And basically we know that we are defining a random variable, which is that one thing on top. This is in a matrix notation, of course. And then the x. Well, basically, the x is the collection of the factors, right? Under the different everything that we have to consider. So we said that we have 12 risk factors, and the problem at hand was as follows. Just a reminder, we have seen this already, but so this is the problem at hand. It's an insurance portfolio, 100 policies. $1 million each. Everybody's age 40, okay? And I have a mortality table. I have no lapses, all right? So it's a kind of an artificial problem. In real life, I can expect lapses, of course. Then I have risk-free yield curve denominated in USD. I have invested assets also, market value, 105 million. And then I have I invest in stocks and in zero coupon bonds. So we say that we need to basically we need to identify these factors, okay? And then what's next? Well, next is we have to calculate the sensitivities. So the sensitivities are the elements of the vector delta and the matrix gamma, okay? And this is how it is done. So first I'm going to do I cannot do it in Excel because it would be too complicated, and also Excel won't support a big Monte Carlo simulation. But at least I will develop some numbers in Excel, and then I jump into an R platform, okay? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. So, okay. Well. Okay, I have to stop this and then go to. Okay, so I have here basically a spreadsheet. I hope that this can be seen from the back. I hope. Okay, so I have basically this is a tabular arrangement. What I have is ages. I have a mortality table here. Okay, so these are the QXs, and then I have survival factors, I have deaths, and then I have the different liabilities, the liability cash flows, and since I know that what was it, the death benefit is $1 million, so my unit here is millions of dollars. So here the cash flow is going to be basically. You see the multiplication of the number of people dying, right? And then I have here, if F4 equals 10, that is when we reach maturity, everybody gets the survival benefit. So at the end, I will have to pay to everybody. So basically, I'm doing a I4, which is the number of deaths, plus H4, which is the survival benefit, right? And so here I'm calculating with some factors, well, the present values, right? And these factors are precisely the risk-free rates, right? So here are my my spot rates, spot rates. So these are spot rates denominated in USD for different durations, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10, right? They are a bit old, so they are a bit high anyway, compared to what's going on now. Did you know that in Switzerland the 10-year rate, the 10-year government bond is negative? Did you know that? Also, I think in Japan has had this type of phenomenon. That means that if you want to invest money in a 10-year government bond in Switzerland, you have to pay, right? They don't pay you interest. You have to pay to give your money to the bank, right? And there's a reason for that. The thing is that the government, the Central Bank of Switzerland, don't want money to be stored in the bank. They want money to be in the economy, right? Why is that? Because in turbulent times, there are two things that grow in value. One is gold, and the other is the Swiss franc. So the Swiss franc is very strong, and this is not good for exports, right? Because Switzerland is a very small country, so Switzerland basically lives out of the trade, right? Like pharmaceuticals and financial services, and many of the things that and chocolates and many of the watches, things that the Swiss do, particularly pharmaceuticals. It's a multi-billion dollar business. So if the Swiss franc is very strong, the exports go down, and this hurts the Swiss economy. So the bank says you will have to pay if you want a 10-year deposit, right? Okay, so these are simply the rates here, and then what I have is here I have a 5%. So this is the expected. I'm going to say that 5% is the expected return on the basket of stocks. And what I will do now is, and here's the cash flow assets, okay? And if I take the sum of these, so in order to make things even more challenging, I have to hold the microphone. So if I have 3 hands, it would be excellent because I can type and then hold the microphone. But I am only equipped with 2 hands, so I don't know what to do. Maybe I use my pocket here, maybe, something like that, yeah. Yeah, okay, I think I don't have any disease, I just have to speak like this. I'm not, what's this, Stephen Hawking? Not Stephen Hawking, I'm just limited by I have to speak like this. So I have this, if I take the sum of this is the 105 in assets, and then I take the present value of the assets, and basically what I'm doing is also a recursive calculation, right? Taking into consideration the spot rates, okay? And the reason this is highlighted or is in a different format serves a different purpose. So let's put it in the same format. So this is again, this is basically cash flows calculated with these spot rates, and that's it. All right. Now I have here a like an expected scenario. In other words, the present value of the liability cash flows is simply this number that I have calculated somewhere, K3. Okay, so that's 80 million. We're working in millions, and I have a negative sign because it's a liability. And then the present value of assets at time 1, right, is basically the sum of many things, because it's not only the column O is the present value of the bonds, and then I have 25 billion invested in stocks. That's why I have to take all these cells. But basically I have so the present value of this 105 million today is 100 billion, 100.7 million. Okay, the difference being the expected. Here I put the expected risk capital at the end of year, EOY, end of year. Okay, and this is, as you can see, this is simply the algebraic Some, and another complication is in German, because I have the German version of Excel, but some is Summe. Even I can maximize here screen size. I think if I do Ausblenden, yeah, Ausblenden. Okay, so I have here everything here should be clear. Now this is basically the present value of assets at time 0, present value of asset cash flows time 0, present value of liabilities at time 0. Okay, so and then this is risk capital at BOY. Boy is not a child, is beginning of year, right? Beginning of year. Okay. Now, what I have to do is to calculate the sensitivity. So I'm going to start with the delta vector, and the delta vector has 12 components because there are 12 risk factors. So what I do is that I basically shock the rate. I put here movement up, so this is 1% up, and when I put 1% up, what happens is that that basically I take it back. So look at this rate. This is the one that is shocked. All right. So if I take that back, it changes, right? So and if you look at the formula, you see clearly that that here is the spot rate plus or minus the shock. So I put 0.01, and then this value I copy this value, and I paste it where? Here, but why is not the, here. What did I do? Let's see. I think this should be well, let me clear this out. I delete this. Okay, so I increase the rate, and then this is a movement up, and I copy paste this because this is a formula as a value, and then I go down minus 1%, and then I copy paste this as value here down, right? As a value, okay? So the sensitivity is that one. Doesn't look good. I don't think this is the right thing, but maybe it is. I don't know. Let me just check what is the official number. Oh, it is. It is. I was doubting. So these are the numbers. The first number, the first element. So delta 1, which is the first element, and I'll tell you what is this in a second. Delta 1. This is the first sensitivity, 20.96 negative, and should be. Is this one? All right. So now I turn this to 0, and then I shock the second rate up, copy, value, and then down 0.01. And everything that is changed is this rate, right? Here, the second rate. So I take this, and then I put here, copy as value, and then I have the element, the second element of the vector. Well, doesn't matter. The second element of the vector. Now you're going to, why didn't you write a macro? Well, yes, I did, but I wanted to demonstrate what I was doing, and let me run the macro. Let me run the macro. So this process is repeated, and here in tools, macros, ausführen, and then I have at least the first 10 elements, which match my calculations. For element number 11, this is the change in stocks, and the change in stocks is a multiplicative factor, not an additive, right? So I have to do a different calculation, which is that I need to shock the mortality, 10%. So what I do is that, look at the rates, the mortality rates. Well, first I need to, let's see. Yeah, I need to return that to 0. Okay, so look at the mortality at the QX, right? Look at the QX. Even I put the same format for better visibility. Okay. Okay. Okay, so look at the QX. So what I'm going to do is that here I'm going to shock I'm going to say that the mortality rate is 10% higher. So when I put 0.1 here, look at what happens in the column. The column is higher already, yeah? 10% higher. Okay, so what I do is that all the mortality rates for all durations are increased by 10%, so that's a 10% shock. And then, again, same procedure. I copy this number here, and I think this is factor number 12. But I copy as a value. Yeah, I didn't want to copy as a formula. Okay. And then, again, I go to the mortality assumption, minus 0.1. And then the mortality is uniformly 10% less, okay? So I copy this value, and then I put it here as a value. And my sensitivity is, now here, this is tricky because sensitivity is now, the denominator is not 2 times 1%, it's 2 times 10%, which is 20%. And it is here, right? So that's a minus 0.466, and let's see if this matches yeah, it does, right? So I have here the last element, right? So what I'm doing in essence is that I'm calculating, these are the shocks, vector H are the shocks to the 12 risk factors, okay? And then I calculate the sensitivities, which are the implementation of the derivatives that you see there. Okay, so in the first column you see sensitivity. These are derivatives, and then second column is the implementation. So that's the estimation, because I cannot tell the computer to calculate a derivative. So I have to do what I'm doing is basically the set here is the rate, and then I sum 1%. Set plus H, set minus H divided by 2 times H, and H being 1%. So this is the definition of the derivative, right? Now for this is okay for the delta, right? Which has 12 elements. What about the gamma? Why do I need the gamma? Because I'm calculating the second derivatives, all right? So the gamma is a matrix. How many elements are there in that matrix? If I have 12 risk factors, how many elements are there in that matrix? And here, here's the clue, because you have to take all the combinations, all the possible combinations, right? So, and here's basically here's the mechanics. This is set I plus HI, set K plus HK, so plus, minus, minus, plus. So I take always two elements at a time, and then I divide by 4 times HI, HK. So how many elements has this matrix? 144, yeah, 12 times 12, right? Now, if I want to do it in Excel, I can, it's not this one. If I try to do that in Excel, I can be here until Friday, right? No, I would write a macro, okay? But it's, and also Excel is good because also I can check everything. But here the calculation is as follows. So what I would do for the first element of gamma, so the first element of gamma would be, so this goes back to, so this one goes up, and this one goes up, and then I note so every time I need to take two elements at a time, this and this, then this and that, the one and the first and the second, the first and the third, the first and the fourth, and so on. All possible combinations, +1, minus, +1%, -1%. So this is very difficult to do it in a, well, I can write a macro. It's not that difficult, but it's time consuming. Anyway, what I did is also time consuming, my implementation here, I'll show you the basically what I'm doing is that I wrote code for this. No, now this is how many people use R here? A few of you. Okay, R is a computer language which is free. Is open source. You can download load it for free in the internet. And what I have here is the RStudio platform. The RStudio platform is also open source, is free, and this is something that is very commonly used in Europe. Many companies are starting to use open source software. At first, they were hesitant to use open source software because there is no guarantee that the calculations are right. But since R is being used by academics everywhere in the world, it's very solid, and the chances that the software is wrong are very close to zero. It's like Wikipedia. I don't know if you use Wikipedia, but the quality of the articles is at least, well, I'm talking about the English or Spanish versions, which are the ones I use regularly, are very good quality, right? So it's you would say Wikipedia, anybody can write in Wikipedia, and you don't know if the information is good, but apparently there's no problem. And same for R. Now companies who used to spend thousands of dollars in other types of software, now they are building everything in R. And R has many advantages over Excel. To begin with, you can the documentation of routines is one big advantage because you write so-called scripts, and you can document your work. So here, let me show you this is the console, and the console is where you do your calculations. For example, if I want to say 1 + 1. I go in the console, and then I get this immediate calculation. If I want to generate, for example, 10 numbers that come from the normal distribution, standard normal distribution, right? 0, 1. Here are 10 numbers, random, and you know that the normal standard goes basically from -infinity to infinity, but for practical purposes, from -3 to +3. So the numbers, you know, if I take the mean of these numbers should be close to 0, except that it's only 10 samples, so it's not going to be 0, right? But something close to 0. But likewise, if I want to generate 1 million, okay, why 1 million? Why not 10 million? Let's generate 10 million numbers. So that's 1 to the 7th power. So I have x is a vector right now, even if I speak, well, it finished already. So I have 10 million numbers there in x. If I want to know the structure of x is a variable, structure of x, it tells me that it's a vector with 10 million elements, all right? And these elements are random deviates of the normal distribution. If I want to calculate the mean of x, it's going to be close to zero, not zero because there's some randomness, but very, very close to zero. If I calculate the standard deviation of X, is going to be very close to 1 because it's a normal 0-1 distribution. And if I want to see the distribution, I do a summary of X. It's very, very powerful. Try to generate 10 million numbers in Excel, and you take forever. So this is this is how the distribution looks like. So I have values as low as -5. Okay, I have 10 million numbers. Okay, and values as high as +5, 528. So that's why I like very much working in R. And let me show you how the code looks like, right? So this is you are welcome to this code if you want. So this is of course there are many things that are not all this that is in blue are for comments and documentation and everything. Here I'm downloading, or I'm loading into memory a package. Now R is composed of package, same as Python and other languages. So packages are libraries that people construct libraries, and they are available for downloading. So if I want to calculate random deviates of a multi-variate normal distribution, I need to load a package, and the package is called MVT norm, right? And that's because for the random variable that I put, I said the factors are supposed to have a normal distribution, but then the collection of all factors has a multivariate normal distribution. Then here I tell the number of simulations that I want to do, and I do 10,000, and 10,000 is okay. 10,000 is already a large number of simulations, but I can do 10 million if I wanted. Now, if I do 10 million now, it's going to take maybe 5 minutes because it's a lot of processing, but that's okay. I define a confidence level here. It's instead of 99 is 0.01, but it's here what I want. I think the metric that I want to calculate is the tail value at risk at 99%. Then I have my spot rates, and these are the same spot rates that I had in Excel. Then I have the stock return of 5%. I have my mortality rates here. I tell the program that there are 12 risks. 10 years is the contract period. This is the cash flow of the assets. And one element that I need now, I need an assumption for I need a correlation matrix, right? Why do I need a correlation matrix? Because I need to glue all the distributions into one. So I need the correlation matrix of the spot rate 1 year with the spot rate of 2 years, and so on. So I need also a thank you. Yeah. All right. So I need this correlation matrix to put together all the values or to glue all the distributions. But then I need somebody to tell me what are these well, I need the correlation matrix. So what can I do? Well, I can do it myself. I can basically, if I subscribe to Bloomberg or one of these tools, which are basically a repository of information, that's okay. Or well, the Swiss regulator gives me the correlation, so it's very good in that sense. So I have the standard deviations, and the standard deviation of a rate. What is that? Well, basically, this is the observation of the rate over a large number of years or weeks or months, whatever, and then I simply calculate the volatility or the sample standard deviation, right? In this case, I think I used numbers from the regulator. Okay, so I have, this is the standard deviation of the spot rate, duration 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. until 10, and then this is the volatility of the stock. Remember that we said that the expected value was 5%, and here the standard deviation is close to 15%, which is okay, right? Let me magnify this for better visibility for those of you sitting at the back. Maybe I put font size 16. Okay. Okay, apply. Okay. So I have here this is a correlation matrix. Okay. And this is provided by the regulator, right? Or I can, if I have a research team, maybe they can put together that for me. Or if I have, I don't know, some commercial vendors have this type of ability. Otherwise, I have, it's a bit problematic, all right? But it's only a correlation matrix, okay? And then what I do, I have here my sensitivities. And then I need to decide whether it's an additive, if I add or subtract 1%, or is multiplicative, if I multiply by 1 plus the sensitivity, or 1 plus or 1 minus. So I say that the first 10 are additive, and then number 11 and 12 are multiplicative. And then I write some functions, which is also a feature of R. So for example, this is the ES function. ES is another word. Well, ES comes from an expected shortfall, which is another word for tail value at risk. It's the same concept. And this is a function. So what I'm doing here is that I calculate the value at risk, which is the quantile, right? Of the distribution, and then I take the sum of all elements of X that are smaller than this value at risk, and then I divide by the length of the vector multiplied by the alpha, right? The same, I have a discount, etc. So this is basically this is a cash flow routine or function. Looks like a lot of work, but it is probably a lot of work. So that's the thing with R. You have to do you have to work in Excel in parallel, and then when you need a lot of processing, then R is going to be much easier. You need to have Excel in parallel to check that your numbers are good, right? Then here I have a function X up, X down. I have a function delta. Then here I have the quadratic approximation. So this is the implementation of the derivative. And then I have the calculations. Yeah. Plus, 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 minus, minus, plus, minus, minus, etc. Okay, so it's a few lines of code, right? And that's it. So if I run this code, okay, so I did I have already I run it again to see that it runs very, very fast, like that. Okay, about 2 seconds, and this is 10,000 simulations, and I did 10,000 just for demonstration purposes. If I change that to 10 million, it's going to take about 5 minutes. So I won't do it, right? But anyway, I have run the code, and then what? Do I get any output? Well, thing is that I didn't put any explicit output, so I have to dig in, because this is for my personal use, right? If I do it for another person, then maybe I construct a graphical user interface, a nice screen where you can enter the numbers, etc. But then I know, because I wrote it, I know that I have a vector called delta, okay, which is the one that I showed you before. I take this this out. So here's the vector, right? And this vector corresponds to the Excel that I showed you. And then I have a gamma, the gamma matrix, which is 144 elements. So if I take the structure of gamma, the structure of the gamma matrix, then you see that is 1 to 12, 1 to 12. All right, so these are the different elements. So the first element of the matrix is gamma 1, 1, is that number, which is incredibly low, right? It doesn't matter, right? If I take, for example, this, that's different. That's not as low. Anyway, these are going to be used for what? For what purpose? Well, they are going to be used. I switch here to the PowerPoint. These are going to be used as inputs to what? Here on top, I have the delta vector, delta transpose, and then I have the gamma matrix. Okay, and what I need to do is generate random deviates of a multivariate normal distribution, which is the X. Okay, which is what I did. So in other words, I think the variable is called output. Yeah, it's called output. And then I have, no, there's another one. I think it's called model output. Yeah, model output. Okay, so, and this is, let me do it again, control, model output. Okay, so, and this is part of the programming. Of course, I can interact with Excel. I can write this. I can export it to a Word document, to a PowerPoint presentation, to a PDF document, to an Excel sheet, whatever, because R communicates with everything, and then it can read numbers from Excel from different sources. It's very powerful. Yeah.
Capital requirement.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the way it is done just in Switzerland, or if this is the way that the calculation is done in all Europe. But I've seen that what it's shocked is like the spot curve entirely. So you have like spot rates and spot rates up and spot rates down, but like the curve, entire curve. So you'd have like
I know what I did
scenarios.
was one by one, but I could, if I want, I could say, yeah, I could shock the whole curve, but typically you shock the first one, then the second one, third one.
Because, for example, if you don't have the correlations between the different vertices,
yes, exactly,
it's difficult to produce that information.
Exactly, yes, would be difficult. Yes, very good point, right? Very good point. If you don't have the correlations, then it doesn't make sense to shock one by one. But I do have the correlations, right? And by the way, if you want, correlations of risk-free rates in US dollars of different durations, talk to me. I will send you the correlations because I have fresh information from the regulator, which the regulator gives it for free to everybody, right? Yeah, in US dollars, or in euros, or in Swiss francs, or in Japanese yen, or in maybe also in a sterling. In pounds. No, reais, no.
And the other question is regarding the mortality risk.
Yeah.
It was not, I couldn't understand if we're shocking mortality up and down. In some cases, it won't make sense maybe to shock it down, because I lose money when my mortality.
Yeah. Now the thing is that you shock it up and down, and it's simply that I said that the mortality rate is expected value, so it can go up and down. You would argue that what's the purpose of shocking it down? But it's just that this methodology is it's a concept of the derivative, and that's why it has to be symmetrical. Yeah. Now somebody told me once that what about having these shocks randomly produced, and I think it's possible. Everything is possible, but does it make sense? I think either we adopt a derivative approach or a Taylor series expansion in which the shocks are symmetrical or not. But here, look at these numbers. Let's try to understand what we are looking at. So the net cash flows at time equals 0 are cash flows these are cash flows at the beginning of year, right? And these are net, okay? So it's like the capital. Remember, and we are talking millions here. So how much were my assets? 105, okay? Just to give you an idea. So my I basically have net cash flows of 18.68. Now expected net cash flows 1 year hence, 1 year from now, 19.9 million. Now how much risk? What's the solvency capital requirement for the mortality risk? Well, fairly low. This is 140,000, fairly low, right? Why is that? What do you think is that? Any idea why it's so low? What type of product we are dealing with? Endowment. So in endowment, mortality doesn't play a role, right? Because mortality is only going to drive the timing of the cash flows, but I will have to pay anyway. I will have to pay to those who die and to those who survive. Oh, look at my computer. Computer looks at me and unlocks. Eh? That's very nice. So I have, but shouldn't get locked when I'm presenting. Oh, maybe it's I don't know. Anyway, so the risk, the risk capital for mortality risk, I call it risk capital here, and then in the slides I call it solvency capital requirement, but it's the same thing. It's only $140,000. Yeah, very low, and that's because I have no risk. Okay, if everybody dies in the first year, well, all right, so I have perhaps more trouble, right? But it's not going to make much difference. But for market risk, I need a lot more. I need 24 billion, right? 24 billion. Now, that plus that is not that. So I have some diversification benefit. And why is that? Because I'm gluing everything together, right? So I am saving $1.7 million in diversification, and basically the capital that I need is 22 million, right? This is the capital that I need, 22 million, which is this number here. I put the market value of assets just for reference, and then this is the solvency capital requirement as a percentage of the market value of assets, about 21%. Okay, so this is the way to basically to do this type of implementation. I know that is particularly the code. If you're not used to the code, could be a little bit difficult to follow and understand. But the process should be straightforward. Everything that I'm doing is shocking factors and then estimating how the solvency capital requirement is going to behave 1 year from now, and that's it. So it's fairly straightforward. Once I have the code, I can change of course the correlation matrix and see what happens. I can change the mortality rate. I can have whatever. I could have put a lapse assumption. I could have put other things, so I can enrich the program, right? Any questions here? And also one advantage of R is that everything is in memory, right? So if I have an old computer, maybe I need to maybe it will be a bit slow, maybe not. I have another computer which is like an old one, 8 years old maybe, and it's a bit slower, but nowadays I have a lot of computing power, so it's I could recommend that you go into the R direction, and you start building your libraries, and you can do everything there, and you will find it very very easy to use when you get used to it. But in parallel, you will have Excel to check your calculations and things like that. Now, this was, or this is the what can I tell you? The very close to the Swiss approach to calculate the solvency capital requirement for market risks. What about the Solvency II approach? So we saw the slides. Before the launch, and I was blending. Oh. This slide is basically the output that I wanted to. I simply copy pasted. I could have R allows me to create a PowerPoint presentation, everything. So, but I just took a screenshot of the output, which is what you see here, and then this is repetition. So this is basically what I'm doing, right? So I'm calculating the delta in solvency capital requirement. We generate 10,000. Oh well, this is 100,000. I don't know. The program said 10,000. This is 100,000 realizations of a multivariate normal distributions with the appropriate volatilities and correlation matrix, right? Which is okay. I'm not. That's the one of the inputs that could make this a bit difficult, and then this is the the output of the model, and then for the other problem we have this is a situation. We have basically an investment contract with an annual discretionary bonus, okay, and let's see the implementation. And in this case, I don't need R. I can do it in Excel, and I'm fine. So I have this. I have this. I was blending. So I have this basically tabular arrangement where I have these shocks, and remember that these shocks are in the solvency rules. Remember that we have plus 70% or minus 75%. Then I have the risk-free rates. This happened to be in USD, right? At certain point in time, yeah. So the shock rate here is identical, but there's an underlying formula. Looks horrible, but I'll explain you how it works. Then I have a guaranteed rate, right? So this is a discount factor. These are zero coupon bonds, okay? And then I have my cash flows, again, present value of assets. And then I said that I have a replicating cash flows for the reserve. So the reserve basically is takes into consideration these replicating cash flows, right? Whatever those might be. And then I have, I call it statutory reserve. And then the bonus is basically 90%, right? 90% of G4. Well, in normal circumstances, is 90% of F4. Okay, so it's 90% of the rate minus the guaranteed rate, right? So again, 90% of this minus the guarantee. So 90% of this minus the guarantee is less than 0. So in the first year, no bonus. But let's do this one. So this would be 90% of this, right? Of this minus the risk-free, right? Times something, times what? What can I offer my good policyholder? I'm going to offer a oops. I'm going to offer what? What can I offer him or her? What can you offer as a bonus? Well, what about the reserve? Yeah. So this I have calculated the 12 that I have here. I just wanted to show you how I did it. So again, it's 90% of the rate minus the risk-free rate. And if this number is greater than 0, then I multiply that by the statutory reserve. So this is kind of a cash value type thing. And what is a cash value? The cash value is something that is normally a function of the reserve. Although don't say that in the US because there's a law that strictly prohibits having a cash value as function of the reserve. But in essence, it's that. Okay. So this is some form of compensation, right? That I give to my policyholder. So but it's discretionary. Why is discretionary? Because if the results are not okay, I may not that. So I take that back. It's discretionary because the company may give it or may use it to support solvency. That's why it's discretionary. So what I do here is that I calculate. I take this back. Then I calculate. I have this present value of assets minus present value of liabilities. So that's in essence NAV, net asset value, okay, which is this guy here. So there you see the difference of these two things: present value of assets minus present value of liabilities. And then I have, I did my here scenarios. I can either choose up, down, or BE. What is BE? Best estimate. Best estimate. Very well. So up is when the rate is 70% up. Down is whatever, when it's minus 75% down, right? And best estimate is no shocks. Okay. So in essence, this is, they don't tell me that, but this is similar to the concept of a derivative, maybe. Okay, so and then I have yet another functionality in my spreadsheet, which is mitigating effect. Do I consider it or not? Well, here is on and off, and NA is basically not used. All right. So if I put it on, right, things are going to change. Well, but things change only when I take the up or the down, right? So this is how it works. And then this is to determine whether the bonus is going to be given away or the bonus is going to mitigate or not. Okay? So this is a very simple spreadsheet. There's nothing, no macros, no nothing, right? Okay, so if I go and this is a screenshot of that. And by the way, if you're interested in the spreadsheet, drop me a line and I will send it to you. So so this is the best estimate scenario: no up, no down, no nothing. And then we have here. Can you go back one slide? Yes. Okay. So then we have here, we need to calculate changes in net asset values. Okay. So this is change in net asset value up. I put here up, and I put here down, right? And then I write these numbers in a piece of paper, right? Etc. But this is already it's automatic. And then next slide. This is the same thing, except that it has a superscript A. Superscript A means adjusted, right? So adjusted means that I turn this switch on. Okay? And things change, right? So evidently the output is this or that. And then all these numbers, I wrote them in a napkin because I was having coffee or something, and I wrote this. I was using with one hand my cup of coffee, with the other the Excel, and writing down the numbers, whatever. And then I write all the formulas that I need, right? So from the tables we populate the formulas, right? So these numbers come from the Excel sheet. And then I find that my solvency capital requirement is this number here, 37, right? The basic solvency capital requirement is 0. The basic solvency capital requirement adjusted is 37. The present value of the future discretionary bonus is 45, and that's it. So what I did, I go back. What I did was basically to use this set of formulas that they gave me, and together with the shocks, plus 70%, minus 75%, and so on, for different durations. That's all I did. So this I can do in half hour, or let's say if in an hour I can do the calculation and you know, to from zero to building the spreadsheet and doing this module. Now this module, or rather this soft module, is just the interest rate module, right? Then I have to do the equity and other things, and but everything is prescribed. Okay, so I will show you now the type of prescriptions that that comes from Solvency II. So like I said before, Solvency II is a law, and the law has basically it's called directive, right? And then they have something called delegated regulation, right? And the delegated regulation is the kind of the implementation of the law. So I'm going to show you how it looks like. And by the way, it is available in Portuguese and other 22 languages spoken in the European Union. So I'm going to show the English version. I should have brought the Portuguese version, but I don't have it. I have the English version, and but you can download it or get it from me in Portuguese, because it's available, because Portugal is member of the EU. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Yeah. Okay. So here. All right. So this is a copy of the official journal of the European Union, and I'm going to magnify for better visibility. And it came out 3-4 years ago. Yeah, 2015. So what I have is the this is basically this is the official name of Solvency II is a Directive 2009/138/EC, and the official name is that one of the European Parliament and of the Council on the taking up and pursuit of the business of insurance and reinsurance, and then parentheses Solvency II. So Solvency II is the short name for that, right? And this is the delegated regulation, about 800 pages, and about 200 of them is formulas, and 600 are matrices and factors. and things like that. So, so you have here, and then this is very boring, right? So I'm not going to spend much time here, but you have all the different, you know, all the different, you know, the general provisions, the risk margin in here, etc. So what I want to show is the market risk. Yeah, so section 5 here, market risk module, all right? So I go to page 91, which is like 93 here. Okay, so this is the life catastrophe soft module, health, and then you see the, you know, the square root formulas that I'm showing. Yeah. Did I look correctly? 90. Here. This is the market risk. Yeah, section 5, market risk module. Okay. So, so basically, well, a lot of legalese. So these are the modules. This is the square root formula. Then this is the matrix that I showed you, except that here they put A, and A shall be equal to 0, where the capital requirement for interest rate risk set out in Article 165, whatever, is the capital requirement, In other cases, the parameter shall be equal to 0.5. Which is what I did in the slides. So this is the interest rate risk soft module, and here are the shocks, right? The ones that I put in the slides and in the Excel sheet. So these are the shocks. If there's an increase, very long table, right? So these are years. So for a 90-year. I guess 90 years is like a practical upper limit, whatever. And then the decrease, okay, they put, you know, they put 2 tables, same thing. And that's it, all right? So well, basically I need to take the definitions of the other definitions from other pieces of the regulation. Okay, so this is how it looks like, 800 pages, right? Full of formulas, procedures, and everything, right? So, and contrast that with a few pages of IFRS 17, right? So this is 800. This is I don't know, 50 pages, right? At most. Which one is more difficult? I don't know. I think this one is more difficult in my view. And here, no formulas, no nothing. This is like a poem, right? No, they don't tell me anything, right? So yeah, you have to calculate risk, and then you have to calculate discount rates, and that's it. But they don't tell here. At least here they tell me a lot of legal things, right? All right. So having said that, let's let me go back to the. Yeah, I'll go back to the slides, but in this case, I'm going to. Well, yeah. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. So having said that, which one you prefer of the models that I showed? Which one you? Well, evidently the Solvency II is easier, right? Is that would you be happy with that or not? Well, the Solvency II is the you can do that. So the regulator tells you do that, or construct your model, whatever. So they give you the two possibilities, and it's very likely that your model, your own model, will result in lower capital requirements. So there's an incentive, but also there's cost involved in developing a model, right? And as I told you yesterday, this French reinsurer, very big, took 10 years to develop their internal model, right? So could be very onerous. Okay, so equity, right? Equity. This is another soft module. Okay. Sí, sí. Sí. Mm-hmm. Esta es la dish. No, dish. Okay, so we are switching to the. So you can see your monitors. Hmm? Yeah. But why in the mortality? Because we say that the mortality is also a risk factor.
But in the market risk model.
No, because it was implementation was in a product that had also mortality risk. I just put it inside. So
because for me
yeah.
it's difficult to see
Yeah.
mortality as a market risk factor.
No, it's not a market. It's a different risk. The thing is that I put it together. Just I wanted to show the diversification effect. But you're right. Yeah. Yes. Dash. Mm-hmm. Okay. So anyway, I think we are approaching the coffee break time. So let's see if we have still a. But then I disconnect this or. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like for example, these formulas, these are taken from the law that we saw. These these matrices. These matrices are taken from the law, etc. Right? Yeah. Now for the equity, right? Equity risk module or soft module. Well, basically Europe says that there's two types of shares. Two types of shares. One type are shares listed in regulated markets of the EEA. All right, EEA, European Economic Area, which is EU plus Iceland, Norway, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein. Okay, so it's these four countries are not in the European Union, but they are type 1, right? And OECD, right? OECD. Brazil is OECD, right? No? Well, Mexico is OECD, and Mexico is no, Brazil is bigger than in economy, right? Turkey is OECD. Well, OECD is 20 countries, right? So that's type 1, and type 2 is shares listed only in emerging markets. Okay, so and non-listed shares, hedge funds, and instrument not otherwise included in any other category of the market risk module. Okay, so if I don't know if you have companies like Bradesco, for example, I don't know if they have shares listed in the US. Probably they do. Yeah. So that would be that's a share listed not only in emerging markets but also in a well they call it type 1 and type 2. Okay. Now here the shocks are two numbers only, 46.5% up, or 46.5 for type 1, 56.5 for type 2, plus some adjustments. And then look at here, instead of having a correlation matrix, well, I have a correlation matrix of 1 times 1, because I only have two factors, right? Or no, not 1 times, 2 times 2, because I have two factors. Okay, so here, instead of writing a correlation, and given that the numbers are identical, then they say, well, use the same number, which is 75%. So 75 is the correlation coefficient between type 1 shares and type 2 shares, and this is how I glue them together. So I have to calculate the solvency capital requirement by shocking type 1 equities and shocking type 2 equities, and then bringing them together with this formula. Okay, so everything is like this. It's 800 pages of formulas and factors, but this is how it works. So you have to, if you want to be an expert in Solvency II, you need to read probably by now about 3,000 to 4,000 pages, right? Yeah, which is a lot. But I was reading. There's a book that I'm reading that I think is very interesting. That is called "Thank You for Being Late." I don't know if yeah, it's wonderful. And this is a journalist of the New York Times, and he writes about his view of the world and what's going on, etc. And in the book says that a doctor, in order to keep up to date professionally, he has to read about 600 hours per month of all the new medical research coming out. Okay, because he's talking about artificial intelligence and the ability of machines to be better at a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis, and things like that. But if you're a medical doctor and you want to keep up to date, you need to read 600 hours per month of new material, of new research, of new articles and documents and everything. So this is incredible. Huh? If you're an actuary, it's only 3,000-4,000 pages of Solvency II, and then this thing, you can read this thing in a week or so, right? In your spare time, instead of playing video games, you go and take this with you and you read it. But do it. Try to read at least the paragraphs that are in a bold typeface, because it's important. Okay, so any questions at this point? There was an excellent question here. Sorry, I forgot your name. Gabriela. She asked why I took the mortality risk also in this market risk model, and yeah, she's right. I just wanted to illustrate that this delta model is also suitable for mortality risks. I was focusing basically on market risk, but I calculated the mortality risk capital separately, and then I aggregated it. Aggregated it with the market risk, and just for illustration purposes. Okay, so let's enjoy any questions? Sorry, before we go to the coffee. Okay, so enjoy the coffee and see you now in about half hour.